does awakening dissolve physical pain? Does physical pain dissolve once this is seen as being the way this is? You know, that's not a separate entity that's doing the suffering, I suppose. Physical pain happens with the body. It's a warning signal for the biology to take care or change something or fix something. But the worst of the pain is the mental fear and the worry and the projecting what may come of this pain. Is it an illness that's going to be serious? Will I die? You know, and why is this happening to me? Might be this is unfair. It might be all these thoughts get jumbled into this, which create most of the actual suffering, the psychological suffering especially. There can be physical suffering, but it feels like, and I've experienced pain and medical circumstances that you wouldn't want. It's like the worry of the pain is worse than the pain itself. If you just sit and savor the pain, if it's not overwhelming, if it's overwhelming, it's a bit hard to do this. You sort of need it to calm down, or perhaps wait till it's not 10 out of 10 physical overwhelm pain. But if it's anything less and you can sit with it and almost lean into it and just observe the pain, and when it's lesser again, you can maybe sort of almost dare the pain to do its worst and see what happens. You know, you can't do this with physical ailments that are going to harm the body. You need to address that. But anything that's like it's just unpleasant and uncomfortable, sometimes if you lean in and look at the pain and go, okay, let's just really let the pain express completely, and it can stay that way forever. What happens is the pain expresses that. It may express longer than the mind wants it to. It may continue for days or weeks or months or years. But in a meditation, perhaps you could just look at how it changes and how your response and reaction to that pain can change. And that is actually the first step to releasing the suffering that comes with physical ailments, physical pain. You know, the pain won't necessarily diminish, but all of the secondary pain, the psychological suffering, and the worry and the fear that amplify that physical pain, it does amplify it. That can stop happening. That can just dissolve, and it can almost be looking at who that's happening to. You know, like who's in pain, who's got the pain, where is the entity that's actually in pain. And when you look, it's just pain. It's just pain in the body expressing. And we say my body, and we say my mind, and my this and my that. So it's not you. It's the body that is in pain, and there is an awareness of you, whatever you is, whatever you are, that is aware of that pain in the body. But there's just pain arising in the body. And the rest of the entity story is placed and contracted and attached to that. And that entity can be looked at and saying, who is the entity that's having this pain? And when the entity is not found or seen as just constantly flowing life expressing this way, then the pain doesn't exactly go away, but it changes. The pain changes. There's a different perspective on the pain. And I will say, this experience, my experience as John, is that even though there can be psychological suffering and concerns and fears, perhaps, which arise spontaneously and naturally as a response to whatever's going on, and that may not go away, that might still be part of the bodily biological reaction, the habit, the conditioning reaction might still fire those off. But when there's kind of a glimpse of this wholeness, of the possibility of this wholeness, then there's always space that those cathartic events are happening in. There's actually access to the spaciousness, and there's also the psychological suffering and the emotions, and there's also the physical pain. But they're like layers, and ultimately the space that this is happening in feels completely peaceful, completely accessible, and these are experiences, or these are happenings in that space, but the space is always whole and complete and isn't being harmed by these experiences. These experiences open up. They're opening up, but there's always this spaciousness as well in which they're happening. And that's what you are. That's what we are. If we're open to that, that's ultimately what we are. Doesn't feel like it from the human mind. It feels the human mind has always thought of, I'm this separate entity, this separate body, this person, that's who I am. But if you really start looking into this and this opens, that's seen not to be true. That's seen to be an experience in this completeness. And the completeness is what you really are. Having this individuated expression, this individuated experience. But it's the wholeness, and you are the wholeness.